When Goku first learned the Kaioken, the furthest he could go was Kaioken times 4. After training in 100 times gravity, however, and gaining a huge Zenkai boost after his fight with Ginyu, Goku was able to withstand much more stressful multiplications of the Kaioken, such as Kaioken times 10 and eventually times 20, which is stated to be the maximum multiplication in the anime. The highest multiplication we've ever seen though is times 100, which Goku used against Lord Slug, which to be honest should have killed Goku, especially seeing how heavily damaged he was just after using the times 4 multiplier. But what exactly is the Kaioken, and what is the most dangerous application of it? The Kaioken, or Fist of the King of the Worlds, is a fighting technique originally developed by King Kai. Even though King Kai is the originator of this technique, he was never able to master it, so he in turn taught it to Goku, who is still the only person in the anime that's been able to master this. The Kaioken is a technique that multiplies the user's ki for a heartbeat, which considerably increases their power and speed, allowing the user to inflict serious damage on opponents who are normally much stronger than them, as we saw with Goku and Vegeta. However, the downside of the Kaioken is that it takes a heavy toll on the user's body, making them more vulnerable to enemy attacks. While in this state, the user's aura color becomes crimson and, like most other techniques in Dragon Ball, requires the use of ki control in order to handle it properly. To go a little more in depth, as a result of the Kaioken technique, the user's base power level, strength, speed, and all other senses are greatly increased for a short period of time. Intense training has been proven to allow for longer periods of time to be spent in this state, as we saw from Goku's battle with Frieza. The first context given to the scaling of this strength increase is that it doubles the user's power level. As the series progressed and moved forward though, Goku has demonstrated many times the ability to heighten the effects of the Kaioken by increasing the multiplications at will. The first time we will witness this technique is from Goku in chapter 226 of the original Dragon Ball manga. Goku first demonstrates the power of the Kaioken in his initial fight with the Saiyans that invaded Earth, and even though he made relatively easy work of Nappa, Vegeta required a higher multiplication of the Kaioken to deal with. This type of high risk, high reward technique isn't the only of its kind in Dragon Ball, but it definitely sets the table for the rest of it. By the end of the Namek Saga, we were introduced to a legendary transformation that would go on to shape the future of the entire series. The original Super Saiyan transformation first premiered in 1991 with chapter 317 of the Dragon Ball manga titled Life or Death. It also made its anime debut the same year in episode 95 of Dragon Ball Z. While it isn't until a little later on that we get a better understanding of this form, right away we can see the major differences between a technique like the Kaioken and the transformation of the Super Saiyan. So, before we get into the correlations and eventual merging of the techniques, let's first discuss the commonly misunderstood difference between a technique and a transformation. A transformation, as referred to in the context of this series, is in fact a technique that is used in the act of changing one's body into another form in order to tap into greater stores of energy, strength, or speed. So with this definition, we can infer that a technique can actually be used as a transformation, as we saw from Goku obtaining Ultra Instinct in the Tournament of Power, which was originally a technique only known to the gods, but Goku was actually the first mortal to not only use the technique, but actually utilize it as a transformation as well, which is something the gods had never seen before. A technique, however, is the approach in which the user carries out something. So in the context of this series, for example, Frieza's Death Ball is a technique used for destruction and damage to your opponent, while the Solar Flare is a technique used to blind your opponent and not cause any significant damage to them. The transformation into a Super Saiyan was originally obtainable when a Saiyan who has reached a very high power level loses himself in an emotional outbreak, which would also explain the user's noticeable change in personality. Originally, it was thought that only Saiyans pure of heart would achieve this transformation, but obviously that didn't last too long. If we refer back to the Kaioken, the demand of intense ki control is more prominent with the later multiplications of the technique. Now, since the Kaioken is in fact a technique, it is possible to be stacked on top of transformations, and to my knowledge, it is in fact a possibility for anybody to learn the Kaioken. Now, while it is possible to stack the effects of the Kaioken upon transformations, the repercussions could be fatal if the user doesn't know the complete effects the Kaioken has on the body. If the user is not used to the technique, it generates great stress to the body, enough to increase the muscle mass and blood pressure because of the uprise in the heartbeat. If the user multiplies their base ki too much, the eruption of ki flowing within the body could easily destroy them from the inside out, or at least cause damage so substantial that they aren't able to move. Very similar to the 8 inner gates technique we see in Naruto from Rock Lee and Gai Sensei. Even though it has been proven that the Kaioken can be stacked upon transformations, in Dragon Ball Super, the Elder Kai states that using the Kaioken in conjunction with the Super Saiyan transformation is almost impossible, or rather lethal in a more literal aspect, because the intense emotional typhoon caused by the Super Saiyan transformation doesn't allow the precise ki control required in order to survive the Kaioken technique. The only issue with this statement is that after the Cell Saga, the Super Saiyan state was more or less mastered by everybody who currently held it, in a term referred to as the Mastered or Full Power Super Saiyan. The definition of the Mastered Super Saiyan transformation states that this form does away with the instability and restless feeling of the prior or imperfect Super Saiyan form. Because the user has conditioned their body to treat this form as a normal state or base state, ki consumption is reduced to negligible amounts. Although ki control is not mentioned in the definition, you could dare to assume that ki control is much better in this form, but still not good enough to be able to handle the Kaioken. Even though Goku did in fact use the Kaioken on top of his Super Saiyan transformation in his fight with Pikkon in the Otherworld tournament, presumably Goku was only able to use it due to him being dead at the time he used it, and would explain why he never attempted the Super Kaioken while alive due to the risk. The only known transformation to have the Kaioken stacked upon it successfully while the user was alive is the Super Saiyan Blue transformation, because the Super Saiyan Blue transformation is the result of perfect ki control, so focusing on the Kaioken technique is allowed to be the main priority. I think that's gonna do it for this one, guys. This was supposed to be a pretty short video, but once I got into the zone and I had to look up all of this information, it just started flowing. Anyway, if you guys want to know a little bit more about Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken or Super Saiyan Blue in general, let me know down below. Have a great day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.